the main things about the activities is that at the end of the day, you make the connection between them and they forget all the conflict that they had back home or the conflict they currently are facing in their countries.
This is Running for Real, the podcast for runners who know that for every runner's high, there are just as many lows. All those just missed PRs, easy runs that feel hard, injury blues, and more. Each week, we'll talk to running, health, and wellness experts about their highs, lows, and best advice to build our confidence. Running for Real is about being honest, being brave, and most of all, not feeling alone. And now here's our host, who loves to watch Netflix family dramas, Deena Muir.
Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Running for Real episode number 41. Now, last week was the recap episode for 2017. We had some of the best episodes. There was quite a few of your favorite episodes that I went through and kind of explained a little bit. And even better, I had you guys explain a little bit. I had audio clips of you calling me and saying which ones were your favorites. And so that was pretty cool to actually include you in that. I will be trying to do that more in the future because, I don't know, I really enjoyed the fact that I could hear your voices, kind of get to know the voices of the people who listen. So stay tuned because I will give other opportunities to do stuff like that. But mostly those opportunities will come from the Running for Real Superstars group. Make sure you go join tinamuir.com/superstars. Now, today we're talking to a runner from Jordan. A runner who has climbed his way up in the running rankings to now be a 225 marathoner. He trains in Boulder with some of the best in the US, but he's also juggling a career as an advocate for positive change. He's, really using running to resolve conflict in countries around the world that are really in a dark place. And it's a pretty amazing chat today, so be ready for this one. It's really going to kind of open your eyes to things that you might not think about otherwise. Now, before we begin our interview with Mo'ath Alkhawaldeh, I want to take a moment just to say to you that thank you for listening to me in the first episode of 2018. It is wonderful that I get to start off this year with you. This is an exciting year for me, and I'm sure it's going to be an exciting year for you, especially if you have some big goals that you would like to achieve. But one thing I will say, my friends, don't put time pressures on them. Don't say you have to do it on this date. I know if you do have a time goal, you're probably thinking, well, that's easy for you to say. But trust me, you will run so much better if you can just think about what you can do to give yourself the best opportunity to run your best and then let the result take care of itself. Your body does know what it's doing. Your mind knows what it's doing, but you got to let it do its best. So drop those time goals, drop those paces, drop all the pressure, and just focus on what you can do to be your best. Okay, preach over. Hope you enjoyed this interview with Mo after a quick intro from our new sponsor, Health IQ, and the ever loyal Body Health. New year, new beginnings. It's time to be a new sponsor, one who is here to help you because you put in the time, energy, and effort into looking after your health. So you kind of deserve a reward for that. Health IQ gives us lower life insurance rates for being healthy. Yet another reason to tell those naysayers why running is good for you. Find out more later in the episode. New year, new you. Well, kind of. By now, most of us know that big New Year's resolutions really don't stick most of the time. But small ones that we can actually stick to, they will make a heck of a difference. Just like adding Body Health Perfect Amino to your routine made a big difference for me, and it could to you too. Mo'ath, I am so excited that you are here right now talking to me. This is going to be a great episode, really insightful for our audience, and I'm looking forward to it a lot. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure for me. It's an honor for me to be with you in your broadcast today.
No, this is going to be fun. And I think this is going to give us a unique look into running, not just, as you are from Jordan and have a bit of a different story to many of my listeners, but also because, you have spent a lot of time in the US, so you've got to see kind of both sides of things, and you're doing things that are kind of very different to a lot of people. So, now you can do that, and you've traveled all over the world and you can kind of compare. Maybe tell us a bit about how running is different in a place like Jordan compared to maybe the US or the UK.
Yeah, in Jordan, the country has a lot to offer to a lot of people in terms of how beautiful it is. But the running culture or sport culture is not developed as the other countries, like the UK or the US. We're trying our best to build it up, to develop it more, to let people to get out of their zone and just to go and to do more physical activities. But especially running, we're way back on the track of getting people to run. Mm-hmm. We've just started 5 years ago. We started. There's an NGO called Run Jordan. We just started back 2005, I think. They organize races, 10K and half marathon and marathons. That's picked up things. People started to practice to run it, but we still we have a lot of work to do on that. 55% of the population, the youth of the population of Jordan, we have, so more than half it's youth, but still they watch sport more than they do it. So
what kind of sports are popular there then?
Soccer.
Okay.
I think soccer. We watch a lot of the Spanish league and the English league all the time in coffee shops, and even like we just tell people like you just spend time on the shisha places just watching soccer, but you gotta do something and watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you mentioned about running, not really being a big thing, although changing now. You've got that NGO going. What about when it comes to running itself? Is it more a case of people don't run because they don't really know that that's such a thing to go out and run, or is it kind of like not a like cool thing to do, or like what do you think the reason is that running isn't more well known?
Yeah, running is one of the hardest sport, I think, in my opinion. It's hard to do it. It's hard to start. It's the problem with it is getting people out of the door is the hard part. Once they're out. They will love it. They will stick to it. That's what happened to me. I mean, it was hard for me in the beginning. Then once people pushed me to do it, stuck to it, and I just kept going. So I think the lack of motivation back home is the key bit. A lot of people want to be fit. Nobody doesn't want to have good health, but the problem is getting people out the door, and that's what we're trying to do, to encourage people to create group runs. We advise them in coaching. We just help the leaders of the groups to sustain their work with their groups to get people more out. So that's about it. It's just the lack of motivations that people find, and because it's hard to start. Always. Yeah,
well, and I think anyone around the world can kind of. Most people listening, we've all tried to encourage non-runners to start running, and it's often met with a lot of reluctance wherever you are, because running isn't always fun. So can totally see that, and especially if it isn't something that you see often and you get to see the benefits of it, then I could definitely see why that isn't something that's first on people's lists, shall we say, to do. So then, how did you get started running when you kind of came up with it?
I started back in 2008 when I was crossing brochure in the supermarket. Actually, I was a heavy smoker back then. I just saw a brochure called A Man Life Run. It was 21K. It's a Jordanian female runner did it along with some people from UK and Germany. They organized this race in Jordan. So then I called them up. I said, I never ran a 1K in my life. Can I run a half marathon? She said, yeah, definitely. You can come in and can walk it. So I showed up on the race day on Friday after 2 days of registration. I have this elite. Even she gave me elite number, like number 3, which was was like to encourage me to do it. But then I ran the race in 1 hour and 50 minutes.
Okay, so that was you'd never run before.
I never ran before.
And you went out and did a 150 half marathon.
150 half marathon. I was never run before. I was a bit overweight back then, just, not like a weight of someone who runs or who was active. I mean, I wasn't active at all. Even the shoes I ran with was like the old school shoes, if you know it, the white one, Adidas one.
Yeah.
So really a running shoes. And it's surprising to me now in the US or you go to UK, a lot of people talk about the shoes, the neutral shoes, stability shoes. And I just remember my shoes. I still have it actually, because that's my first race with that shoe.
Yeah. And so, that's actually incredible that you managed to run it the whole way, but run that far, that first time. So then what happened from there? Did it kind of awaken something in you?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of people encouraged me, said, like, come and join us. The same group that organized the race, they said, come and join us. We have a group runs in Sports City. We just started. I mean, mainly there were foreigners more than Jordanians, a couple of Jordanians who studied abroad and just came back with the culture of running.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started with them and I just pick it up from there. Then after that, my first international race was a 10K in Beirut, because Beirut Marathon, they organized 10K and full marathon. So back then I trained for the 10K and I managed to run in 37 for the 10K.
Okay.
That was my first good timing in 10K. And from back then I just started to reach out to schools in the US because they said that they could offer you academic scholarship plus athletic scholarship. I applied for different schools until I got accepted at the Open Institute of Technology. They gave me half board in the first when I got there. Then my times improved. He gave me the coach agreed to give me a full board to complete my bachelor's degree in accounting. Then I managed to obtain my master's degree in human resources and labor relations afterwards.
Mm-hmm. And how did you know to apply to US colleges? Was that something that other people were doing for other sports?
Yeah, no, I knew from the US embassies, people who used to run with us, they told me, like, you need to reach out. I mean, if you're good enough, to make the team, they'll help you to get accepted and get some academic scholarship plus, athletic scholarship. I was lucky enough I worked hard for the first season when I was there, and I made the top 5 for the East Coast Championship. That's what, they agreed to give me the full board to complete my bachelor's degree and my master's.
Yeah, and how did what did your family think about you kind of moving to the US for running? Was that completely unheard of?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, for us back home, like the only way to get scholarship is academic scholarship. If you're smart enough, you get money. But my family they were not kind of like trusting me, but they were afraid that I go there because I was wide enough back home. Like I was doing well in school, fighting with teachers and stuff. And they were just afraid that would I succeed if I go to the US? Even my English was half broken. Like I couldn't speak English well until I spent like 5 years in the US. I still have an accent, as you see. Mm-hmm. But it was hard in the beginning for them to accept it. But they had no choice. They said, we believe in you. Just go and do it. Mm-hmm. So it was really hard for me. I mean, to come back to new culture, to have the pressure of being a student athlete plus sustain your grades, because as NCAA eligibility, to maintain your scholarship, you got to have like 3.00 GPA. Yep. So it was a lot of pressure on us, but and the coach was emphasizing that to us for the international student, said you are a student before being an athlete, so you have to maintain good grades and to be able to fund you for running.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I 100% understand myself being from the UK, having gone to the US in university and making that same move as you. It is scary. And like Mo says, there is a lot of pressure on you, especially when it comes to keeping those academics up as well, because, it is drilled into your brain that if you don't pass academically, then you're not coming back. So Thank you.
That's true. Yeah.
And then, so you've continued to improve, things kind of, you did well throughout your college years and while you were, working on your master's. And, now you are shooting for the 2020 Olympics. And you have actually competed for Jordan in the marathon in the past with your PR of 2:27, which for most people listening is probably, a world away from where they could ever want to be, and really cool for them to hear. So tell us about how you ended up kind of at the marathon. Was it something you always enjoyed your long runs during college and kind of knew you'd end up there? How did you end up at the marathon?
Well, what happened is after college, I said, I'm not going to compete. Like I never thought about Olympics after college. I just said, get a job. I've done some international work with the United Nations as an intern. Then I've joined another organization as a consultant that works with the UN too. Until I went to Mammoth Lakes for like about 5 months just to check it out, to see what's the elite athlete life look like.
Did you just choose to move there yourself? Or...
No, actually, when I met Deena Kastor at New York Marathon, I was volunteering at New York City Marathon, and she told me about it, and I just checked it out. I said, I would love to go there. And I've worked as an auditor at the ski resort as a part-time you started at 8 to finish at 2. So I was just checking it out. Like, I wasn't really training hard yet, but I was just checking out how to see. I met with Meb a couple of times. I see him. He was talking about how the pro athlete look like, and Deena Kastor the same. It's all about eat and run and sleep. And sometimes you would have a part-time job, but it's not like you have crazy hours, because you have to choose something. And when you don't have to do more, it's not about doing a lot. It's about how much you're achieving. So I got that concept from them until I got an offer from the Jordanian Olympic Committee to manage programs for one of their initiatives. It's called Generation for Peace, and now it's an actual NGO that's been running since 2011. I've managed programs in the MENA region and Sub-Saharan Africa, where we use the sport as a conflict resolutions. So I've worked with them for 3 years, but since then I was working full-time and running full-time. So the only thing I was doing is this long runs. I was doing much speed work. I would do fartlek, but I wouldn't be able to go to track because that would take a lot of time from me. And plus I have 9 to 6 job. So until I just started running, I started doing I did the first marathon. It was Philadelphia Marathon. I ran 2 hours 37. The second marathon I did was Vienna. I ran 2 hours 33. Then after that, I ran Berlin. I ran 2 hours 30.
Wow, you are touring the world with your marathon.
Yeah. Yeah. Then I did Hamburg. After Berlin, I did Hamburg, was 2 hours 27. Then recently, I've just did the Chicago, 2 hours 25.
Oh, okay. So you have improved it since I last saw. So congratulations on that. Very exciting.
Yeah, so 2:25 in Chicago was when I did I just focused on for 2 months of running. So I just realized it's all about, just getting the job done and focus. And yes, you have to get not 10 hours of sleep, as Deena says, or Meb says. It's not about you getting back from work at 7. And it's not like being discouraged, but if you wanted to be a pro, you got to live like a pro life.
Absolutely. And how cool for you to have such incredible role models as Deena, Meb, training with Deena and Andrew Kastor at Mammoth Track Club. And from not what I now see, maybe this has changed since you updated your website, but you're now working with Lee Troop in Boulder. A very well-known and, successful coach. So actually, I did see him a few weeks ago. I don't know him, but my husband was like, "Hey, that's Lee Troop," at the club cross country. So, I have seen him. But tell us about, you'd been in the US. Before we I do want to talk about, what you've been doing outside of running, or bringing the two together, I guess. But tell us about what it was like. You did have the time in university in the US, but was it a bit strange for you seeing a world where kind of professional athletes can make a pretty comfortable living off their running when you came from a place where maybe, that was just never really something that someone would do. And if they were going to do it, they wouldn't be able to kind of, set themselves up for the rest of their life. How did that feel for you coming and seeing that?
Because back home, we don't consider sport as something as part of the society. Coming to the US, I just landed, I remember on August 15th, and then from the airport, we went to the pre-camp where we, all the athlete gathers, student athletes, and I've seen the women's soccer team and just practicing in the morning. I had never seen that back home. I don't see women even running outside or wearing like a running short or just running. It's like, it was not shocking. It's just like, I saw it in movies, but I was like, am I seeing this alive? Going to breakfast together and meeting with other coaches, you have physical therapists. It was definitely shocking for me because back home, we don't take it serious at all. We think it's like you're wasting your time if you're doing too much sport. But definitely it's motivating being up here, seeing other people. But I haven't said that I go back and forth often to Jordan. I'm still in contact with a lot of people back home because if I've I've considered myself like I've benefited from the sport. I want to benefit other people. Like I'm in touch with other runners to contact other coaches that I know in the East Coast to see if they can get some scholarship and come here the way I did. Because if I did something, someone else can do it too. And they might be better than me even in running. So that's what I'm trying to do now, just to benefit other people and just to use it. But coming back to to see someone like you see the people, how they encourage you. It doesn't matter like where you're from, but they love. I mean, they would get close to you because you run. They would talk to you. They would be very like welcoming to you because you're a runner. Mm-hmm. So I owe running a lot. Actually, there are a lot of people I met through my running career so far.
Yeah, and what a wonderful way of putting it. Really, really nice to appreciate that, and that you do kind of think of it in that way. And actually, that reminds me of something I did write it down here that you said on your website, which is running is more than a sport. It's a way of connecting with people worldwide who are committed to positive change, both for themselves and their communities. I mean, what a beautiful thing to say, but maybe give us a bit more explanation into why you think that way.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday actually I was in Manhattan doing got a run show, and I said I owe running a lot because I met a lot of people from different background, different religion, different races, different colors, different countries, different nations. But when we sit together, we just speak the same language. I mean, you just look at it in the table when we sit, like we just only talk about the running and how, I met this guy through running. I met this lady through running. I've traveled to South Africa. I met different people when I did the South African half marathon or whatever. So that's about it. It's not just you doing something by yourself. It's individual sport, but when you do it to other people. You line up on the start line, for example, in Chicago Marathon. I was looking around me, someone from UK, someone from New Zealand, someone's putting Tokyo, Japan, someone is wearing the uniform of their countries. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, we all had one goal, is to finish the race. And after the race, we just talk about it. We gather together, we take pictures, we communicate afterwards, like how do you do, how's your recovery? So running is, but like when I do it, I get together with people, I learn from people, and I run with people. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. And that's really cool and so true. And I love what you just said there, especially about races themselves. We so often get caught up in our own heads of what we're doing, but we forget that everyone around us, all those thousands of people around us are doing exactly the same thing. And we are kind of like warriors working together towards that one goal of getting to the finish. So really cool to kind of remind us of that. And you mentioned about, runners just being good people and being very positive. What is it you think about runners that makes us or them so passionate about, changing things for the positive? Is it something we see that maybe others don't?
I think when you hang out with non-runners people, I used to do it at work, like see people who doesn't run, the way they react to things is different than people who runs. They just all the time, they come to work like unhappy, and they come just be like unmotivated. But when you work with the runners, like even like one of the supervisors was a runner, it was totally different because they come with this high endorphins, high runners after the race or after a morning run, and they're doing well. And we're just talking about in the coffee morning in the coffee, talking about like, I've tried these shoes, I've tried this, everything it's calm. Everything is, people are like controlling their stress through running. So that's definitely makes a positive on the society, like in the people around you. When you come from a run and you feel like good. And I was like talking to a friend of mine, she lives in Netherlands, and sometimes she postponed her run to the evening after work, but now her kid's pushing her to do the run in the morning because she would feel good. Because, Mommy, we don't need you to see stressed out. Mommy, we don't want to see you cranky. Just get out and run. So it's really funny to hear that. I mean, even you can, it work also on a small scale of living, like around your family. So the same thing with my wife. I mean, she's like, how's your, like, she want me to see you running because I'll come back, like, everything is calm. Everything is under control. So I don't know what it's about. It's the endorphins, definitely. But it's that something you do it and you look around, not a lot of people are doing it. So that makes you feel also good about it. And we do it, in the snow, we do it in the hot weather. We do it in every time. I mean, if the treadmill, there's no treadmill, we get out and do it. So because we are passionate about it, we love it. That's why you see us like connected together when we get together.
Definitely. Really cool. Thank you. And then when for you did you kind of realize that you wanted a career, as an advocate for positive change? These two kind of came together very nicely for you, but was that something you were always passionate in, even at a young age?
Not really. I mean, because I wanted, I wish a lot of people told me what I'm telling other people when I was young. Mm-hmm. I keep telling this to the high school when I go back home and do some motivational speaker to them. I said, when I was in your age, nobody came to me, told me there's a scholarship in the US. Nobody told me that I could run. Nobody told me I could speak English or meet other people from different backgrounds. All I've been told is about go to school, you have to finish your educations and get a job and get married and live comfortable life. And that's all about it. But there's no, I keep telling them also, don't dream without goals because they don't work. Both of them work together. So that's what I'm trying to reach out to people, just to encourage them. But now I'm working on parents more than kids, actually,
Really?
Because the parents back home, they influence the kids. They have control on them. It's not like the US here. After 18, you're on your own. Nobody tells you what to do. I want to do study dancing. You go for it. I want to do arts. I want to go for it. But back home, or the parents would tell them, no, you're going to do engineering. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be good accounting because that will make living. Mm-hmm. But eventually they don't make it because they don't want it or they're not capable of doing it. So knowing the potential of the kids is a key for success for them, and knowing what exactly they could be good at. But yeah, just that's what I started feeling like when I benefit from running, I want to benefit other people. Yeah. That's why I am doing it. And working with the Generation for Peace back then was a key for me to be open, to be spread in the communities, to be able to access to them through our programs. So we were doing the Sport for Peace programs, plus I was doing advocacy to motivate the kids to dream, because it's the right for every child or he or she wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about Generations for Peace in just a second. Yeah. I just have one more thing related to what you just said there. Sure. You said about working with the parents mostly, or they're the ones you kind of focus on. Do you find parents are pretty receptive to, you coming over and talking to them about that? Or is there some resistance, kind of what you said a few minutes ago about how running or a sport is kind of seen as wasting time if you spend too much on it?
Yeah, I mean, what I do when I accept a motivation speak from a school, I ask the school to invite the parents, and they do it after working hours. So after when the school's finished, when the kids are done, the parents come and watch and talk about it. So I leave something for the parents and saying you guys gotta have the power on these kids. You're the one who motivate them. They will listen to you. Because you're the one controlling their lives. I mean, you're just telling them what to do. And the good kids, they will listen to you. And I'm sure you have influence in them, even the dad or the mom. So whatever you say to them will stick to them. If they look at you as a role model, if you look at your mom, my mom's active, mom is healthy, I'll stick to be like my mom. If my dad is all the time drinking and smoking and doesn't care about anything, I'll follow my dad. So that's the things back home we have. They influenced by their parents a lot.
And do the parents tend to then change their habits after hearing what you say?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. I mean, a lot having contact with a lot of people, telling me about, they want advice for which coaches to talk to, what kind of sport to do, and what's that. I could be getting this advice by Facebook all the time, and so I connect them with other people and just to help them out, just to stick what they want. But that's what the conflict we have on that is a structural dimension of the problems back home. It's structural more than anything else. If we change that, a lot of things will definitely change.
Okay. And have you seen changes since you since you started doing your work over there?
Definitely, yeah, we did a lot. I mean, I've seen a lot of kids now. They practice like the sport that they love as like they're going for as a professionally. Their parents go with them to practices. We have good communities that they stick together now. That they're doing it, yeah, which it's inspiring. Lately, I was in Jordan. Actually in November, and I met with a couple of the kids who just started running, and they wanted to make it to the hopefully to the national team and just go from there.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, that's great to hear, and really important that you've been a big part of that. So let's talk about Generations for Peace. You've given us a little bit into it, but this is kind of all about the power of sport to change people and promote peace. So maybe tell us a bit more about it and where you work with this.
Yeah, Generation for Peace started in 2011. It was founded by the Jordan Olympic Committee. They did this as a project first to get to people like kids together to lead them to the sports that they like. It's sport-based games, so there's no competition in it. It's all about togetherness, tolerance, and tolerate together, and also love each other through the sport that they're doing. So in every country we've worked with, you had different sport. For example, you go to Afghanistan, we couldn't do like mix sport like men and women because it doesn't work. So that's you cannot also have to understand the community before implementing the sport. So basically, it was like it's all about the mission of these programs was to get the kids together, cooperate together, and feel the sense of responsibility to their communities. So it's different games. A lot of we used to let also the leaders of their communities, the one who already we trained, they used to implement the games that they think that's suitable for their kids. So that's the main thing of the program side. But the overall mission of GFP is to work on the grassroots level of the communities and use the sport as a tool for conflict resolutions. And in some countries, they cannot practice sport, or some kids, they do not have the ability for some health issues. We let them do art. So they do some art for peace activities. And in some countries, they use the dialogue for peace activities, which is could be a bit of like adult programs, we call it.
Okay. So what kind of things would you have people doing in, a country that does allow you to use sport? Like what would that involve? What are the actual logistics of it?
Well, definitely, first thing you have to train people to lead the programs on the ground, because we believe in Generation for Peace that we let people to make the change on themselves. We're not gonna come external. Someone from external from UK, US would not be able to access the communities as someone who is already from the community. For example, you go to Rwanda. I went to Rwanda for like a month, and then it was hard for me to access to the communities, but because they wouldn't accept someone from outside to tell them what to do. So we did a training for about 25 leaders of the communities. After that, they carried out all the knowledge, and they transfer it to the field by implementing the programs, bringing the games and the concept of the games they learned during the training. And so then after that, we just doing mentors to these leaders. And bit by bit, we just started accessing to the communities through the leaders and talking to the beneficial community, the parents, and talking to the targeted group, which is the kids from 14 to 17. So that's how that structure, the first structure of it. But after that, it's all about mentoring, evaluating the programs, and what changes we should make for the next cycle.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then the programs themselves, is that kind of a thing of where, you would have one of these leaders or the community role models kind of go in and run like a 6-week program on how to run? Maybe they might learn some drills or things like that. Is that kind of what you mean?
No, it wasn't like in terms of running. Running was part of it as a warm-up for the activities.
Okay. So only sport.
Yeah, it's only sport. It just depends where you are. For example, in Rwanda, they love volleyball. So we used to
interesting.
we used to do like volleyball, beach volleyball. We used to have different games on volleyball, like where everyone is allowed to make a serve, everyone allowed to make a strike, everyone allowed to, to help each other to do it without competition. Everyone is allowed to score, but there's no one counting the scores. That's the concept of the games. And Generation for Peace have a handout of more than hundreds and hundreds of games that you can tweak and work with it based on the communities that you're working with or the kids that you're working with.
Cool, really cool. Thank you. And what have you found about how that has helped to, solve bigger problems or really make a difference in these countries in the Middle East, through something as simple as some sport?
Yeah, I'll just speak about Lebanon because we worked in Lebanon. Programs was funded by the EU. This program was about making the cooperation between Syrian who came as refugees, plus the Lebanese who live in Lebanon, and plus the Palestinians who already immigrate to Lebanon after the war. So basically, you look at it, you don't have no differentiation who is who when you see them during the game. That's how it's amazing about it. And afterwards, you see them like the parents starting to get together. After coming to the games, watching the kids, they start having meetings together, and they just started doing their own programs without even us. So that's how was really inspiring to see that, and they make the connections through the games. So that's how the main things about the activities is the end of the day is you make the connection between them, and they forget all the conflict that they had back home or the conflict they currently are facing in their countries.
That's amazing. Really, really cool. And because of your work that you've done with Generations for Peace and just other things that you've done being an advocate, you were in 2017 given the Global Athletes in Excellence Award, which is amazing. And just for our listeners, that's given to athletes who demonstrate kind of a champion's attitude, not only in sports, but their communities through giving back. Being a mentor, outreach activities. So how did that feel to be rewarded for your efforts and kind of given that accomplishment after doing something that was, rewarding enough in itself by just helping people, in other communities?
I think I just said it many times for a lot of people, like it's you couldn't be more than happy than being recognized for something you're passionate about. Someone who say, you deserve this award because you've done something you're already passionate about. So even if I didn't get that award, I would be still doing it because it's my passion. So getting the awards was the milestone for my professional career in running, and as well as in my development work as an international development worker.
Yeah, and it is impressive that you have managed to keep these two kind of parts of your life both being moving things along and improving, and you're running. The progression you've got with those marathons is ideal for what someone would want. And one thing I wanted to ask you just about your running specifically is, can you maybe tell us a little bit about the logistics of Ramadan when it comes to your training? How do you feel correctly during that time?
Yeah, actually, was an article about it on the New York Times and Washington Post was posted 2 years ago by the eBay broadcast. It was the news or international news that the eBay doing. So I just basically Ramadan is a month of fasting from the sunrise until the sunset, which is about in the summertime could be about 10 hours total. Everything definitely changes. It all the time comes on the time when I start my season, my summer training for fall marathon, which comes right off like last time it came before I started gearing up for Chicago. It's hard. Especially the first 10 days of it, where you just shock your body of no food, no water, no calories intake at all until sunset. So you have to be very careful. I work with my nutritionist on exactly what I need to have after I break my fast, so I can be able to recover. But I would just overall the day, what I do is I do an easy run before I break my fast. Then I would eat something, a bit of a snack, protein shake, bananas, a couple of dates, and some water. And just I digest like 3 hours to 4 hours. And then I would do for my evening runs, night runs, which is in the morning, which is at 12 a.m. In the morning. I do my heart sessions.
You do it at 12 a.m.?
Yeah, in the 12. Yeah, okay. So I do it. I would do 1 hour session. Would be the workout itself. If I have a long run, I would do it all after the breaking of the fast. We have like 35K. I would do it. I start at 11, I finish at 1 a.m. and I would eat something, a big meal, and I go to sleep. It's tough. I mean, especially when I had my full-time job as well. But back home, we used to have like Ramadan hours, working hours, which is start at 10:30, finish at 3:30, that helped a lot because I would work up at 9:45. I have no practice. I have no food. I have nothing to prepare. Just shower, dress up, and go to work, and come back at 3:30, have a 1 hour nap. Then I go for my 1 hour run, which is this easy pace. I don't even run with my Garmin, just to let the body just to have a recovery run, shakeout run, because you don't want to push the body at all when you have an empty stomach. Then I break my fast. Then I do my heart session in the evening. But I do a lot of cool workouts, a lot of strength during that month because it's you feel light. So it's a good timing to do the core strength.
Okay, interesting. And do you have any advice for runners who maybe aren't kind of doing that long of a time, but maybe are working full time and have, an 8-hour shift where they might not get to eat? And what advice would you have for people who do have maybe long periods they have to go without eating, but are still trying to train hard?
I would suggest have a snacks. If you cannot have 1 hour of food, snacking is the best way to sustain your diet, and just prepare them for one night. Like even now, currently, I'm doing it. I work sometimes. I do some consultant work. I have my own snacks. Like I do about five snacks a day, of just and a lot of water and that works. Like when you have a big meals, you wouldn't be able to feel the energy, because one big meal and you will fall asleep right away. Mm-hmm. So snacking is the key to sustain good diet.
Okay, great. And what about the mental side of things? Do you feel like this time kind of helps you with the mental side to make you mentally stronger, to know that you can get through adversities and you can train your mind to deal with something as, stressful for it as not eating for that long?
Oh, definitely. It's a 1 month marathon. So basically it's a lot of work, a lot of mental work more than anything else. I mean, you're surrounding with people, and it's also a lot of night out in Ramadan. A lot of people get together in Ramadan and just eat the same, but I cannot eat this food. I get invited to a lot of social activities. I can't do it because I won't be able to eat so much and go for 30 hours K or 2 hours run. So I had to be back off from social life a lot back home, and
that would be really tough.
Yeah, and also there's we offer a lot of food back home. It's about food and a lot of drinks, and you can't do it because you won't be able to train. So that's also I call it sacrifice, but also you have to give it up in order for you to keep up in training.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for explaining that and kind of opening our eyes to that. And next for you, let's kind of talk about that. You have London Marathon coming up in April. You are fundraising for St. Jude. So tell us kind of what your plans are, what your hopes are for the London Marathon.
For me, back in the summer, I went for altitude training. I would train with Mo'ath Club, but this time I just said I want to carry out the strength of the altitude training and just stick on the sea level and do kind of more like kick 10 over legs, like do a couple of half marathons before London. So I'm just still with the mental strength of Chicago. I want to carry it to London. I'm not sure if I could PR or I could run faster or could run slower. London Marathon is is doing it is prestigious enough to finish the race. But this time finishing it also for St. Jude, it's a bigger responsibility than finishing that's only a race. People who are fundraising for, like who's helping me, who's donating to St. Jude's, believed in me that I will do well on this race. So that's bigger responsibility than PRing. Okay. So kind of I have two things I have to be able to make sure to achieve on the day of London Marathon.
Okay, and for anyone listening who may want to kind of help you with that, with St. Jude, particularly if that is something they are interested in, passionate about, do you have a fundraising page that I can put in the show notes for people?
Yeah, that is definitely. It's I'll send it to you. It's you go to the St. Jude website, you find that on my name is there. You just donate, and everyone knows that all the checks, all the money goes direct to the St. Jude's Hospital in Memphis.
Okay, great. All right, I will put links in the show notes. We are just going to take a moment to thank our sponsors, and we'll be back with the Running for Real 4. Did you know that research has shown runners have a 30% lower risk of mortality, a 45% lower risk of death from heart disease, and a 20% reduced risk of 7 types of cancers? So next time those naysayers tell you running is bad for your knees, throw that at them. Most insurance companies throw us in with everyone else, assuming we're sitting on the couch all day eating McDonald's. But there is one that recognises all that time and hard work we put into looking after our health. Health IQ secures us runners lower rates on life insurance as a reward for our health effort to live a health-conscious lifestyle. So like you save money on insurance for being a good driver, Health IQ makes sure we save money on our life insurance too. And you can also upload your race results and Strava data to get you additional savings. I know you guys are going to like that part. You can find out more and get a free quote at healthiq.com/running for real. Earlier on in the show, I mentioned that Body Health Perfect Amino made a big difference to me, and it really did, especially at this time of year when marathon training starts and things begin to get really tough. This is always a time we feel a bit overwhelmed as the accumulation of miles starts to catch up, especially when combined with those hard, heavy training runs. I found that taking Body Health Perfect Amino made my body recover from training that much quicker, meaning I could really attack those long runs and hard sessions. But it's not just for marathoners, it can be runners of any distance. If you get sore or fatigued during training, Body Health Perfect Amino will help you recover too, and here's why. Your body absorbs 99% of the amino acids in Body Health Perfect Amino, compared with only 48% in eggs and 32% in meat or fish. I would take them immediately after a run, and as they absorb within 25 minutes, that would give me a nice amount of time to stretch, another component of staying healthy. Then you can enjoy your post-race meal. Get 10% off at bodyhealth.com using coupon code TINA10. All right, just 4 more questions for you, Mo, starting with, I usually say a unique nutrition tip, something that you do or you use in your training.
Yeah, I always have breakfast before a run. I mean, yes, in Ramadan I can't have any. But yeah, that's weird. But it's just a month. But 11 months of the year, I have a good breakfast before the run. Then I hit my run. It doesn't matter what kind of run I'm doing. I always have to have something in my stomach before I run. But yeah, just I keep it simple. What I eat the most in the morning is dates. It's called the Medjool date. You can find it online. It's contain about 65 calories, the one date. So
and they taste so good.
The coffee is really is good because you don't have to prepare something for it. You just grab 3, 5, and just go for your run. And it's easy to digest as well. They can find it online. It's easy to find.
You can find them in some stores as well. I have definitely seen them. Maybe a bit more like Whole Foods kind of stores, but you can find them.
Stores or something. You definitely can afford. Yeah. Okay,
great. All right. What about a running for real moment for you? A moment that only runners will understand.
You mean like running? What do you mean exactly?
Something that if you told a non-runner this story, they just kind of look at you with a confused stare. But a runner listening, maybe an embarrassing moment or a funny moment or something that runners will be like, "Oh yeah, I've had that happen to me."
Oh, all right. I think when you want to be on the start line.
Yeah.
Just will go to the bathroom in the start line. I was like, oh my God, I can't, because you won't be able to stop. If you're going for PI, you won't be able to stop. So that's the thing that always happen on the race day. So I make sure that go to the bathroom before getting to the start line. Or sometimes you just do it in the start line because everyone's doing it. So you just do it.
Oh yeah, I definitely remember that, particularly at Chicago. I remember seeing lots of little puddles around the starting area. So, yeah, I'm sure plenty of people do that. Okay, what about a high moment for you in your running and why it meant so much?
High moment when I did the East Coast Championship back in New York, where I had to make the top 5 of the race to be able to get the full funded for my master's. I think it was the fastest stride in my entire life I did, because I was with 6 people on the finish line, and I know that I was like people shouting like you're number 4, and I was just tried that 100 meters. I remember I threw up after the race because I just pushed my heart so hard, but that 100 stride gave me a lot of opportunities to stay in the US for another 2 years and obtain my master's.
Yeah. So what distance was that race?
The 8K.
8K. Okay, so that was a cross-country race.
Cross-country, yeah.
Is that at Van Cortlandt?
That wasn't very cool. It was on by the East W Post University.
Okay,
it's, Westbury. Yeah.
Okay, all right, great. And finally, what do you tell yourself when you're standing on the start line of a race?
I just tell myself one thing that my former colleague told me, the director of Institute GFP. I remember her quote to me is like, go Mo, no one can stop you.
I love that. Do you repeat that to yourself while you're racing?
Definitely. Just like, well, no one can stop you. No one is going to tell you stop. Unless you want to stop yourself. But no one will tell you get out of the course or you're not allowed to finish the race. So you're free. When just the gun start goes, it just you by your own just keep going until you see the finish line.
Great, love that. And then finally, I asked my guests to send me a photo of them in a power pose, something they would do maybe standing on the start line or to build their confidence before something big. Will you send us a photo of you in a power pose?
Yeah, sure.
Absolutely great. Thank you so much for this insightful interview. This has been great. Where can people find more about you if they want to kind of follow along?
The website, www.runforpeace.info. I keep doing it. And my Instagram is Mo _ my last name is ALKHAWALDEH.
Okay, yep. And I will put links in the show notes to those and everything we've talked about, the New York Times, Washington Post article as well.
Sure. And
Mo, thank you so much for this. This has been really interesting. I know my listeners are going to love to learn from you. And we look forward to hearing how things go in the future. Thanks for having me in your call. Well, that certainly gives us a bit of a different perspective, right? And I'm hoping Mo, along with everyone else who is training for a spring marathon, or any other race, actually. Everyone deserves a bit of good luck, right? I hope you will have an amazing training segment and run really well, especially as I'm not going to be doing much running over the next few months. I am going to pass on all my running hopes and all the good stuff that I would usually be pumping into my own training towards you. So I hope it helps you maybe that tiny little bit. You can find links to everything we talked about today in the show notes at tinamuir.com/episode 41. And I want to take this moment to thank you so much for listening today. I appreciate you so much. And remember, you can find more of these episodes. This is number 41, as I mentioned. We are coming up on 1 year of episodes. If you haven't listened to them all, you can find the rest of them at tinamuir.com. And there will be an exciting new thing being released in a few weeks, which is going to give you podcast series on topics like mental training, running nutrition, overcoming injuries, first-time runners. What else do I have here? Training for a marathon. That's a pretty big one after we talked a lot about marathons today. And you are going to really enjoy these ones. They are 5+ hours of information in topics like each of those with some of the best guests that you could possibly imagine. You know, some of the ones that are the big time. I will be giving you more information on that in the coming weeks, but stay tuned for that. Make sure you are all caught up on the Running for Real podcast through this episode 41, as those ones will be ready for you and you'll want to make sure you check those ones out. Now, next week we have Bhumika Patel. She is going to be talking to us about what it's like to be running in India. She has become pretty much the face of women's running in India, has inspired so many people to run, and especially those who are typically excluded, people who have either learning disabilities or have sight issues or hearing issues, people who struggle with all kinds of different things in addition to their running, who are usually forgotten. Bhumika is a fantastic role model for all, and you are really going to love that episode next week. So until then, hope you have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Running for Real podcast. Be sure to check out tinamuir.com for show notes and even more helpful running information.